we want to test how fast you level up or gain the advantage of a seasonal theme like this. So I prioritized putting down uh first the pools after the items have no level requirement. So my direction has always been to go to the right side first. As you can see from most of my nodes, order between 1 through 11 is that my direction is towards the right most of the way except for 9, right? I know I'm jumping around right now, but I'm just letting you guys know that there is a certain specific order that is generally more helpful. And this is where it comes down to after 8 that you may want to change things. And, putting up a roadmap like this, it is very personal in terms of your choice between, you know, farming, speeds, uh, quality of life, and so on. So, uh, even putting these numbers up, it is not 100% correct anyway in the first place. Because at the end of the day, you will be able to complete every node anyway. This is just the ease of, also the ease of how you get to offer to actually get the node completed, right? So, what is number 4? That's node F. That's for movement speed. And there is a choice between F or D. Well, first of all, you have to think about this. While 200 damage is basically the rubies that you might find to in order to put it into your weapon, right? Into your weapon, because before critical hit chance gets high enough for critical hit damage, you want to use a red gem instead, right? So this D is representing the ruby gem in your weapon most of the time. But don't forget that C may change that if we think about it correctly, right? If if what C really means with items have no level requirement, then C determines that D is like a dead end, which also the roadmap shows that D is close to a dead end. Now it does bring you back to H, which is the central line, but it just feels like a dead end because you're basically trying to play the game where you're playing your rift, right? Your greater rift, pushing and whatnot, and then or even the speed run, and you hit a dead end. D just looks like a dead end to me, and so because of C, D just looks like a dead end, and I don't want to reach that until much later, and that's another reason why I kept it blank entirely because you don't want to spend the cost of something that C may have already taken over, as well as, you know, 200 damage. Yeah, so basically it's a ruby or more. And the luck of your weapon, right? In the beginning. So let's say you didn't have C. Let's say you didn't have C, then D is really helpful because if your rare item or a legendary gets a socket, you get to put the ruby in it, right? And or which is what D is. Now the question is, how fast can you reach that? Right? So you have to keep in mind how fast you're gaining towards D that is actually helpful during a certain point. So try to think of that before you use D. Regardless of how strong 200 damage might be, you have to also think of the cost. to reach it. And speaking of cost, because it's number 4, for example, any class specific set helm. So that is one part that tells you that now you're sacrificing the use of 200 damage over a 2-piece bonus that you might have been lucky with getting the right set item for your choice of gameplay, speeding it up, right? And so D is like a really, really fixed, it's like a fixed thing, which in F, it also rather says uncapped in parentheses. So I feel like they gave you a hint there, but whether you think it's gonna change in terms of the text by the final PTR notes, we'll have to see. But I believe that they gave you a hint there with the uncapped in parentheses versus a fixed amount of 200 damage. So that 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 gave it away, I think. All right, so let's move on to H that I already mentioned that both D and F reaches down to H anyway. And so what is H? H is picking up health globes that grants a shield for 5% of your maximum health for 7 seconds, max stacks of 5. How to understand what health globes really do for you during gameplay. And for me, when I push like my GR, well, Wave of Light is one of the um, largest damage, but also survivability is different for certain people, and I look into my health globes pretty critically when it comes to that, because if you don't play with life per hit, health globes is the other way to go in terms of getting your heals and also repositioning. Because since you kill so fast with Wave of Light, right? And your pickup radius might be small depending on your RNG of your gear. And if your RNG of your gear has a smaller pickup radius, that means that you can isolate those health globes and use those health globes as positioning skills, right? Because positionally speaking, they may be more free for you to move there such that it is safer and then it heals you. So H kind of uh, give away the idea on how to make use of health globes more often than most. Most of the time, health globes are just there during speed runs. It's A, C, B, F, H, J. What is next after that? Now you want to scroll down to O. What is O? Oh my gosh. That is what O is, right? They're like, they named this for a reason. I think that there are memes in here, right? There are memes in here. And oh my gosh, right? Yeah, it's funny that it's like right there you can tell what your order you should take. What is your next choice, right? There are memes in here like F4 for closing stuff, or D4 if you choose D4, you know what D4 is getting to, right? But F4 alternate F4 anyway. And so, oh my gosh, it's the next step after J. What is it? It says double the amount of bounty caches that drop from completing bounties, right? So that is the biggest, fastest benefit for reforging and collecting materials. Later on, we will see more quality of life stuff, but this is like the beginning of the seasonal theme being like motivating to play, and that is O. So if you had branched off to K for some reason, just because you think that your your pathing is so straightforward down to a C, for example, that you chose to go to the far right as fast as you can. Now you have to think about how to reach O, right? So there is a definitive path between 1 through 8, I would say. It's after 8 that people have a different order after 8. And so I chose to make the drawing and the color coding of green because the green is the definitive path. After 8, it does change, but if you think really deeply, really, really carefully, 1 through 11 is like very, very restrictive. Then again, I repeat that after 8, you can change the order depending on how fast you really crave for that potion power. Okay? So, after 7, which was the bounty caches, doubling the bounty caches, that is fantastic because that's what we want. We want to reduce the time spent on bounties. If you're a person that don't like bounties, this helps plenty. It also helps when you're preparing for the next costs and so on of anything you do. So what is after 7 or after O is to take the central path. You have no choice, right? You've already chosen the central path. This is the last stop of the central path for a while. Think of it as like, you know, a metro or, a train. This is one of your um, central interchange, right? And S is your central interchange. Aside from H being the same way, there is a difference. S is your central interchange. Okay? So, what is S? Let's scroll down. S is gain immunity to crowd controlling effects. Wow. That is great for, if you go into technicalities, S is amazing. But to keep it very simple, you know, there are like loads of things that we do not want to happen when we are like focusing on dealing damage. And so S is just right there. We have a lot of ways to push out even more damage because of those negative effects coming in. And S will help also, like I said, when it comes to technicalities of your builds and so on. S is right there already for you. And you want to get this cheaply. It's almost as though you don't want to spend your upgrading at Urshi for the invigorating gemstone this early. So with this node, you basically equip an extra legendary gem. Because if you're quick enough, you've probably gotten 3 legendary gems by now. This is like a Hellfire amulet, but for legendary gems. So S is basically that, right? And it is your central interchange. You have lots of room here to go left or right with this. So the only problem with thinking about decision making, whether you want to go left or right, I think you want to have both anyway. Both left and right. You want to have both left and right. Because eventually you want all the potions as fast as you can anyway, right? So now you have to think of the value of which potion you want to get first. However, however, going back to D again, D is a fixed plus 200 damage, right? But what is R? R is plus 15% damage. If you're a damage-oriented person, if you're killing faster, you're doing things more quickly, right? That is the very basic killing monster concept. And that's why D was like a thing in the early days of the roadmap, or early on you would consider that. But at the same time, if you're moving faster as well, right? If you're moving faster, you dodge stuff, you can actually deal more damage as well, effectively speaking, right? So, I think that with the central interchange of S, even though we think of going either left or right, I don't think it's left or right. I think it's both. But which one's first? Well, it's pretty quote unquote self satisfying, right? That R is first, so you kill stuff faster, you do stuff faster. Because what is T? T is gain passability, which is basically if, let's say, you're unlucky, you didn't get one of the legendary potions that you want. Well, T is basically that. Or we can say T is the illusory boots. So it's either the potion or the illusory boots that you didn't get, right? So T is like utility depending on your annoyance to the game of affixes, of stuff that prevents you from doing stuff, right? So to be honest, with S being the central interchange, you actually want both anyway, as fast as you can, so that you reach the respective potions you want, and eventually you need to get both anyway because they are isolated on the left and isolated on the right, so you have to get them eventually. You might as well just go for R and T together. I mean, yes, it is an ordered list, so 9 and 10, 9 is after 10, but I think you should get both R and T together, like right next to each other in an order. Okay? So after R and T, it's funny how R and T are together. If you're like a social media person, right? RT is like, I believe, a short form of retweeting or something. And it could be also like as simple as like return, reply text. I just made that out on the spot, by the way. RT, right? All right. I tried making it funny, I guess, or looking smart. Okay. Um. So RT is your after the central interchange of S. Now, what do you prioritize the most between the massive amount of stuff in, what is it? What row is this? The final row before the potions. There's so many nodes there. Just like before, but O trumped the rest, clearly. So we didn't have to consider those ones. But now that we have the central interchange as well as RT, we have so many to think about. Now, what is the what is the coolest one that you can think of to reach? And I think that's Z or Z. It says double the chance to find a legendary item purchased from Kadala. You may not get anything. And then with the double bounties already, you get enough of those crafting materials anyway that you don't need Kadala giving you rares and blues if O is completing that for you already, right? And so Z or Z doubling the chance to find a legendary item means that you get to play more builds that you want to play, as well as increasing the chances of whatever you want to be doing. It could be salvaging stuff for later down the road that actually plays the seasonal theme even more. So I believe Z or Z is the final stop of this fixed definitive path that I drew on my roadmap. Now we have to think about the potions and also what you think are important between quality of life, the potion powers from this roadmap. So, while obvious for how you value Node U in a way that I value Node U differently from other people. And so, once again, anything past 11 is really personal preference and also which potion power you want to reach. So, Node U is 19, and I know that I jumped past 17 and 18, right? I went to 16, which was my Node X. So, what is my 17 and 18, and where did I put that? It is on the middle right, K and Q. So I will finish by cleaning up with K and Q, and the rest is pretty self situated except for one thing, and I will go for one thing after that only, and that will be the end of it. What is K and Q? K is increased damage against elites by 20%, and Q is reduced the damage taken from elites by 25%. Those are really important later on, especially if you're thinking of K and Q like all guilds. I treat K and Q like all guilds. The all guild set from the blacksmith crafting. So if you're like trying to speed run GRs, greater rifts, for example, on the god set, there are certain people who use the Gears of Dreadland set with all guilds version and try to elite hunt more quickly. And so K and Q, realistically speaking, is the all guilds. I also do technical pylon management. And so, for example, when I did my GR 149 or 150 and so on, I had to go back to town at 97% to go back to floor 1 or floor 2 where my power pylon is. And so if it automatically picks up the orbs for me, I will accidentally pick up 3% in the situation that node V additionally gave me, right? So if node V is picked up first, then node P annoys that. Now, the other part that we can talk about this, you didn't think of that? I mean, I don't know. You push more than I do, right? You're. I mean, just experience wise, you push. You've done a lot more than I have. This is the first season that I actually did GR 150. But what I want to say of the technicality of between VP, what else? So so P for me has a lot to do with pylon management. And so if you have V first, which V comes in pretty early, right? Hello there. Lang, how are you doing? So V is like really early, so you get an extra orb already. You get an extra orb already. So P is even more annoying if you need to play the pylon play. Now, what matches up that you might have already considered is the fact that what AC is doing. So if we have AC, we don't necessarily need to play what I was talking about, right? But at the end of the day, that concept existed before AC, before we saw this AC power, this AC potion power. Before we saw this AC potion power, the strategy of pylon management was a thing. I mean, I don't know if a lot of people use it that way. I don't know if a lot of people use the pylon play concept that way, but it is there already. It has existed, and I mean, if you want to see my push attempts, you'll be like, this is ridiculous. Like 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 how I did my my 149 it was, especially my 149. I mean, even though you said you didn't think of that, but I think you at the back of your mind you already have that innately. You just never thought of it. And when I help other people gear checking and helping other people push, I also talk about pylon management in this specific sense. So node P and V are actually really annoying um, for the very technical side of the game, um, which I'm sure you know it, but you do it so instinctually by gut that you don't necessarily um, put as a priority. But because I help other people in a different way as well, outside of just the guides, I think outside the box a little bit and I approach it more um like I actually put it out. Yeah, extra orb is never a bad thing, but then if you do the pylon management thing, it might hurt it. Let's see, where can I put. Eighth try. Okay. Okay, Demon Trooper, Anarchs. I can do that. But this is one of my last tries because I have a meeting. Work meeting. So this is my Hell Rift. So this is the Hell Rift floor 1. I got decent monster type and I'm gaining my progress. Okay, I'm gaining my progress. I'm showing what I'm doing with node P. If you have node P, so I decided to. Keeps. But if I don't have a lead and I don't know what I'm fighting, then I can't play keeps. So let me repeat that, right? So no floor like exactly anyway. So if you know your monster types, you can get a lead like this already. So I decided here to not play the elite pack because I get a already lead killed just playing those Demon Trooper Anarchs, right? Oh, and I got a power. Oh, and it's Lakuni Slashers. Okay, so like I said, right? I got a lead, I can still play keeps. But if I don't have a lead and I don't know what I'm fighting, then I can't play keeps. So here I'm saving the power pylon because I have a lead. I mean, I know the monster type. So this is a reasonable keep so far. It's just that I have to come back for the power. This is too early for power because there's no setup. You don't know how many elites you're fighting. And there is a way that I can come back for the power. So I'm gonna come back for the power. So I'm pausing here because
I mean,
as I
it
was
is
rifting,
what it is.
as I was rifting, I was already thinking like this. Okay? So that's why I'm quiet sometimes, because in the video itself, while I was pushing, I was actually saying those things. I didn't voice over it at all. These are the things that I was saying.
Okay, this is a problem now. This spot is like I have to let the build give me the aggro.
So bells are actually really loud.
So
As
what I mean by that is the sound. The bells are very loud. So you can pull monsters by being here.
and I'm going to go through this GR very slowly because I want to let you see the progress bar.
Okay, that's a yellow elite. That's bad.
Yeah, I
I
accidentally
procced already.
got proc there because I was dodging the frozen pulse, but I wasn't dodging the frozen affix. It's double frost, and
Can't play it.
yeah, I can't play it.
I can't lose my time by playing that.
Yeah, it's just too much mobility.
And it's keeps. So my shadows are bad if I don't time myself. Like my shadows are stuck now.
But I'm still maintaining time here. And that's the goal, because keeps suck, generally speaking. But this monster type was decent for keeps. So, and I have a power. You know, normally you want power at some point of your Rift Guardian kill, right? And so there is still a chance to play this. I'm not behind. I'm breaking even. Obviously I'm ahead, but generally speaking, I'm breaking even. So I have to remind myself that power is on floor 2.
Alright.
So this is the part, like earlier about 1 minute ago, was when I started feeling like what you would have thought already in the beginning. Because now I'm getting stalled. Here I'm getting stalled. Yeah, of course. You waste a lot of time, but then you also understand what monster types are good and what monster types are not. You have to learn
My
that.
lead is still here.
See? You have to learn that at some point, right? And so, if you're just speedrunning, you're killing every monster type so quickly, what do you actually learn? So at some point, this is what I'm referring to. It's not just because I play everything. It's also about learning the monster type, and that is the way to learn,
Okay.
aside from obviously just reading Warpath and memorizing the percentages, right? So here, in this last 2 minutes, this part is already telling you whether it's working or not. It is starting to thin out, right? But I still
Shielding
play
Pact
on.
Arcane, that's bad.
Yeah, so this is how I help other people. You know, it's also thinking if this is the bad one or not. So the last 2.5 minutes was terrible. So we know that the last 2.5 minutes are really bad.
Crap.
We know this, you know this, I know this, but a lot of people might not. So technically
I need a
speaking,
shield.
the last 2 minutes. So here I
If I
wanted
to
a
play
shield.
this place, I need a shield.
So I said there to myself, I'm pulling more. I want a shield because power is already on floor 2.
This is a god.
I'm trying to find density to kill the elites faster, because at the time when I was killing the bats, I was getting stalled by the bats earlier. Before the bridge,
I need a shield.
the density died off and I had to kill the bats to break even. And so this is why I've been pulling so much instead. And I was thinking, between a shield or a conduit, what do I want here? Because I'm procced, because my cheat death is on from my follower, I would prefer a shield. So I'm trying to find the shield. Because from 50%, I was
Come
trying
on.
to look for the shield already.
Give me my shield.
Oh,
Oh, conduit? That works too.
I got a conduit.
The
So,
only issue is, this is so painful.
so the problem with this, why I also want the shield, is because it's Hell Witches. Nobody wants to play Hell Witches at this high, right?
This is so painful that I don't know if I can play this.
But I've already been gathering. At the same time, I've been gathering monsters, the elite packs. From the left, I brought them from the top-ish to the left bottom of this conduit pylon. So I brought some of the elites already as well while I was pulling, while I was kiting, while I was finding stuff. So naturally, you are already doing something, right? The question is how to value a conduit. So now I play the conduit, but now I also have to remember where I place the elites, which I did work on that.
Come on, why did the Frozen Pulse go right on my Oculus Ring?
I proc there again. So there are bad plays here. Like, I could do better with not getting procced, right? So here is the problem. This part right here, I forgot where I put the missile dampening boss. There was a missile dampening boss, and I forgot where it was. Because I thought that it followed me, but it didn't.
Gotta remember my power.
So I was trying to find the missile dampening guy right now, but I couldn't. I took the wrong way. But here, I also have to be careful now. Let me pause. Let me pause this so I can talk. Do you see the missile dampening on the bottom right? That's where the boss I misplaced was. So I could have used my conduit properly if I had gone to the right side more, that I had forgotten to go using my remainder conduit instead of taking the left loop back. But at the same time, at the time when I was doing this push, I was thinking of controlling my percentage, just like node P. Because if node P existed sooner, killing an elite would automatically get the orbs. Whereas killing regular density, I can still control it if my conduit doesn't automatically hit the wrong thing. And Xcrypt can tell you this. In one of his push attempts, even though it was Vesalius, the problem was that he could have gone to see whether he got a pylon on the next floor, but his conduit hit an extra monster that gave him the last percent before the progress orb that he picked up. So, in fact, I could have cleaned up my play to not forget where this missile dampening boss was. Node P suggests that my left loop mistake was actually not a mistake. I'm not trying to justify it necessarily. I'm just letting you know that that is how forward thinking you have to be if you want to tackle this technically. Okay, so let's continue this one. So now I want to TP back, Look at what I saw. Look at what I saw. This pylon here. At the time when I was pushing, I mean, if it's a shield pylon, I could also play it. But then I already saved a power pylon. So if it is a channeling pylon, I could grab it and keep dashing backwards as well. That's another play. But I've already planned what I was going to do. I wanted to go to the next floor. If it wasn't an open map like this, I was going to TP because there wouldn't be monsters running towards me, right? And so I was going to TP anyway. So that's what I chose to do. Instead of checking officially what that pylon is, but I'm TPing anyway.
Oh, I can't play that.
So I did check because the monster saw me. The monster saw me anyway. So I decided to go check for the shield. But because my mind is already TPing, I already planned to TP. So this is what I did. And with the power pylon, my time lead makes sense. If it was a shield pylon, it would be a lot closer. Because if the shield ended, then my damage would return to normal. And I would, if I play poorly.
Okay, who did I get? Oh, this guy? Really? No!
So, so when I,
God!
so when I said playing poorly, right? So there's a fine line between playing poorly. So now we think of what if I have the shield, right? And so here's the funny part. My GR150, I was actually having a shield and power. In my GR150, it actually aligned my GR149 in a sense where I actually got shield and power. Like I had the remainder of 1/3 of the shield, and I played power, and I had Hamlin for my GR150. But do you see this? This is the way I planned this rift. So, so depending on how you think of the nodes, okay? Depending on how you think of the nodes, sometimes the old ways to play will get back at you on the nodes. So you want the nodes later. But a lot of these things, I believe that um, you have it at the back of your mind. Your pre-planning is already there. You just naturally do it, as well as probably perhaps you also have the paragons, right? Because a lot of times you might be a group player